Just to say something about specification. PCP will accept only functional specification,
Okay.
which means you cannot go into the detail of how you go to some specific manufacturing or something. You have to leave the freedom to the supplier to choose the way.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that you are evaluating in the competition between companies. So talking about specification, you can just give a rough functional parameter requirements that then you have to leave the freedom to the company to find the best way. But maybe I go through this into this presentation, and okay, the title was chosen. What I do, I try to explain what we have done in CERN for a PCP. So I bring an example, and you can pick from this example what is useful for you and for your projects. So the background is that in CERN we never used PCP. PCP actually is not an instrument of the European Union new. In the United States, it was used since the 50s, I think it's. So in the European framework has been adopted this kind of procurement scheme, and I found it very, very well adapted for research and innovation projects. In CERN we had, for example, the need to find the financing for the design and manufacturing of some specific quadrupoles used for the Large Hadron Collider, and we just bumped into this scheme, into this PCP. We tried, and it's okay. So what we did, we prepared the proposal, and it was successful. It started in 2016. The project, which is called QUACO, which means quadrupole correctors. Quadrupole correctors because at the beginning of the project we were thinking to include into the scope of the quadrupole also some correctors magnets, but then at the end we reduced the technical scope and we concentrate only on the quadrupole, that are quadrupole superconducting magnets that will be used in the interaction should be used in the interaction region of the accelerator. So what you have to do when you want to build a PCP, you have to have a consortium, and you have within the consortium negotiate, of course, scope, resources, and in the PCP scheme, you have to have a lead procurer. This is requested, which means the consortium is a consortium of buyers. So it's a consortium in the link of European Union. It's a consortium of laboratories that are legal entities that are procurer. So you have to have within this scheme, you have to have a lead procurer. In the case of our project is CERN. And you have to be aligned with European public procurement rules. You have to have at least you have to have 3 partners in this consortium, and 2 have to have the status of European buyer agency. Now, what does it mean that you have to be aligned with European public procurement rules? For example, CERN is not. Because CERN is not a European institution, even if it's called Centre Européen pour la Recherche Nucléaire, it's nothing European. It's something that it's out of the scope of the convention of the European Union. And so CERN, for example, has its own rule of procurement. One of the rules of procurement is called the just return, which means that according to the procurement that we do in CERN, we have to give to the member states of CERN a certain back return on money of their contribution. And there are more or less complicated mechanisms of balancing this year after year. And so this, of course, in the European framework, in European legislation, is completely forbidden. You have to have what is called best value for money. So in order to participate to this PCP, we had to ask a special derogation to the Council of CERN, imagine. And okay, this was accepted, but you have to look into your procurement rule if you are following the the European public procurement or not. In case not, you have to find a way to get through this. So this is the first things to say. So what is PCP? PCP is called pre-commercial procurement. It's a phased approach to procure research and development. You cannot go for a project which is a PCP asking for something that it's already exists on the market. You have to have a research development for this. And you have to have that you have to have contracts, and 50% or more, at least 50% of the value of the contract has to be for R&D. This is quite tricky, but we'll see how you can get to this. So innovation means that these products, services, processes are not already off the shelf. And then you have to demonstrate, you have to convince at least the European Union that your project is confronting a social challenge, has some impact on the society, which is not only for the Higgs boson or for having a better quality beam optics, but also that you can have some fallout in terms of things that are necessary for the society. IPR, it's another important thing. I agree with what was said before, that IPR it's an evil, but for the company, for many companies, it's a way to protect their business. And in the PCP, it's specifically foreseen that the foreground IPR is shared with the contractors. So suppliers can use the know-how that has been created for their own benefit outside of the PCP project. Being a phased approach, and we will see what does it mean, means also that you can, in some way, manage the risk in a way of reducing and of allocating risk to different phases of the project. So it was PCP. It starts with an idea, with a challenge, with something that is a necessity of the society. Then you go through a solution design, a conceptual design. Then you go through a prototype, and then you go to the final first of a kind. This is the end of the research and development, product-driven research, which is called pre-commercial procurement. And then up to this point, it can start a new, different scheme of financing, which is the public procurement of innovation. So the company that participate in the PCP can participate to the commercialization of the product that they have helped to develop. Of course, they will have a competitive advantage because they have been working in this phase for the research and development of a product. When this product will happen to be on the market, they will be advantaged. But that's life. That's the market. It's good this way. For example, here, in our case, we have companies that are developing, and now they are developing the first of a kind of this quadrupole. When we will need 20, 30, or 40 of this quadrupole, we will go on a market with a call for tender. And this company that have been working here will be, of course, with their know-how, with their IPR also that have developed, they will be in a position to compete. So what does it mean? for a company, for attracting a company. Means that the company wants to get here, so they will go through all the phases. They will try to get through all the phases, and even if they stop here, they can, in any case, participate in a PPI. So for attracting company, it's a really good scheme. Now, when you write a proposal for a PCP, you will be, I suppose, as in our case, you will be competing with other proposals. So you will be evaluated by the Commission according to the usual criteria for the European project, which means excellent impact, quality and efficiency of the implementation. I don't go through this. This is normal stuff. You know very well this. But I just want to stress this point: impact. You have to give reason to the community, because what we do as scientists, we do things that are very, very niche products that are used. Who the hell would like in the normal life using a superconducting quadrupole? For what? So you have to demonstrate that this quadrupole is being used. The technology or the process that you are deploying in order to develop this kind of product can be used also in other fields. And this is very important, because this is what the Commission like to see, and what's actually it's all the process of PCP. As for the quality of the implementation, you need to have a consortium which is well balanced in terms of competence, in terms of experience. As for the excellence, you have to write a good proposal, and that's all. These are the points. As I was saying before, you have to have 3 legal entities in a different member states or associated countries. So associated country means Switzerland, for example. And they have to be independent from of each other. So that's the minimum. I think you are more than this, so it's not a problem. Okay, then you have to have a leading authority for this. At the time when we presented our project, the founding rate was 70%. Now I think it's more, I think it's 90 or something like this. So you check this. So in our scope of the design was the design, engineering and manufacture of 2 pilots Q4 magnets. Why 2 and not 1? Because there are 2 companies at the end. I will explain. What they do, the partners, the laboratory, they have to commit manpower for preparing the specification, as I was saying before, at level of functional detail. They have to prepare the contract preparation, they have to follow up, they have to monitor and report, and they will add as well, as we are doing something that industry still is not able or willing, or both things to do. We have to do also technology transfer. You have to tell the company how do they have to do the job many times. So it's a lot of also technology transfer involved in this. In our case, the project is 48 months. As I was saying, we are steering the project, and we distribute as the coordinator. The coordinator will have to distribute the financing to the partners, and will have to pay the contractors, because PCP involves contractors. Okay, this is the scheme of the, where do we need these magnets? They will be here, okay, and here, in the interaction region just before the crab cavity, in the interaction region of the LAC. This is in our case, the total value of the project was 6.6 million. And with the 70% rate means that we get from the Commission 4.6 million. And okay, so this is the This is the scheme of the financing scheme. I was mentioning before that there is a phased approach to the procurement, to the R&D, which means that you have, first of all, you have a preparation phase. The preparation phase, you have to prepare a consortium agreement, a grant agreement, the tender documentation, the functional spec, framework contract preparation, and then you have to do a market survey, which is another important step into the process of the PCP preparation. Then you run the tender, and you award the framework contract. And then you start the implementation phase. Phase 1, which is the solution design. Phase 2, which is engineering design and prototype. And phase 3, which is the manufacturing of the pilot product. Now you forget about magnets. This can be applied for everything that you, for your mirror, or flat mirror, or for other components. So passing from one phase to another, the number of suppliers are reduced until at the end, in phase 3, you have only 2 suppliers. So you can start in phase 1 with 10. You can be in phase 2 with 4, but then you will have in phase 3 only 2, which means that you will have to run 3 tender evaluation, framework contract, phase 1, phase 2. You have to run 3 awardings of framework contract, awarding of phase 1, awarding of phase 2, awarding of phase 3. So 4 awarding. And this is the burden, administrative burden of the process. But it has, of course, it comes with a payback. So this is in a scheme. I think you have already seen this, but this is more or less the scheme of the process. Market survey is also mandatory in this project. Open market consultation is called in the European language. You have to follow certain kind of procedure for announcing this process on the electronic journals. There are the procurement knows these things very well. And then you have to do this in a certain, respecting certain timing that is requested by the Commission. The reason it's obvious. You want to have the maximum diffusion of your incoming procurement. You want to attract as much as company possible to this job. So you have to do something like that is regulated also by some procurement scheme that is very well. So you have to have a web page. That's something normal. I think this is something that maybe you can. This is what we used. We had a 8 word package. We had this is our project governance. You can use any other. But what I will suggest, especially you can try to avoiding a steering committee that is above the coordination action. Why? Because if you have to take a decision, you cannot have steering committee that meets 1 or 2 or 3 times per year. It makes things very. At the beginning, we were using a lot. At the end, they delegated practically most of the decision to the coordination. But apart the division in work package that this will reflect your needs more or less, what is important is this JTEC. JTEC is called a Joint Technical Evaluatory Committee. As we have this number of tender to prepare, to evaluate, to contract to award, I thought at the beginning to have a specific committee that is composed by all members of the consortium, and that is also not only for the technical, but also with legal and administrative support that can look at the documentation to produce and to evaluate. The documentation that goes to the suppliers and the tender that the suppliers send to for the evaluation. Of course, the independence of this is very much important. So I was chairing the JTEC, but JTEC, as I was saying, it takes a decision based on because this is the committee that evaluates tender and recommends to the steering committee to award the contract. So this is quite important body, and of course you need to have representative from all the consortium member. I think this is what we did, and also you need to have representation that is balanced in terms of qualification. You need technical but also administrative people there. Then we had also an external advisory board. This is an external board that is reputed scientists and administrator as well, that once or twice, or once per year or once every 2 years, they make a review of the project, and then they make recommendation to the coordinator and to the steering committee. They just make a review of the project to say if everything is going according what should be, or if something should be changed. Then it's a kind of external body, independent, that can give a high view, forward view on the project. Then there are the company. So here it's just the internal governance of the project. Of course, you have company, because what is PCP? It's about that you go on the market asking for R&D. You place contract for R&D. So company needs to be followed, and there is a technical team that is again under the coordinator lead to follow up the contract. So if we look, now we are here. We are in the phase 3. We are going to finish next year the project. We passed through phase 1, phase 2, and now we are in the phase of realization of the first of a kind. We had 4 suppliers at the beginning, 3 in phase 2, and now we have 2. For me, it was already a success to have 4 suppliers for magnets in a market like Europe, where there are so little players and actors in this sector. I hope that you can have here, but in CERN we have also run another PCP. This was based on IT technology, and in phase 1 for the IT technology they had something like 12 suppliers. This is very important. So I hope you will be able to attract as well a lot of suppliers in this phase. Just to give you an overview of some of the milestones, because this may happen to be as well relevant for you. So you have a bid evaluation, then you may have that EC ask for, well, EC first of all wants, before you place the contract, they want to have a view on what you have, the documentation that you have produced. They want to know which is the basis on which you are going to place contract, so the evaluation report. They want to see this. There are auditors that are contracted by the European Union that look at this. But this is a process that has to be prepared, but takes 1 or 2 days, let's say 1 week from the European Commission, from our side. Then you start the implementation of the phase. Then you may have midterm review with the contractors. Of course, you have weekly interaction with the contractor, but then you have to have also, in our case, I thought it was important to have some midterm review, because if you have a project that runs for 48 months, for let's say 1 year for phase 2 or phase 3, you need to have well-definite milestone, and they are also linked to deliverables, also to payment that you give. So you have a final report from the phases 1 or phases 2, and the same, from the contractors. You make the evaluation of phase 1. The evaluation of phase 1 provides you the possibility to make company eligible to participate to phase 2. And then there is the decision of the steering committee and the review again from the European Union of what you have been doing. So at this point you can launch the call for tender for phase 2 of the project. In this phase 2 are allowed to participate all the companies that have been eligible under this evaluation of phase 1. So they will participate in phase 2 of the project, and you will do the same job again. Evaluation of the received offer, you will dispatch work orders for phase 2, you will have a kickoff meeting of phase 2, you will have a final report of phase 2, in the meantime you can have midterm review or not, you will have meetings, face-to-face meeting, and so on and so forth. And the same for phase 3. So this is more or less the workload that is expected for running a project like this. Here is not written the specification, but the specification was done at the beginning. As I was saying before, the specification for PCP are based on functional spec. You will not say, for example, to the company that you want the roughness has to be done with etching or other things. No, you will tell, I want a roughness of below 1 nanometer, and then you find a way to do this. Exactly. So the technical scope is defined in terms of functional spec. For example, we said we want to have a magnetic length that's of 3.67 meter at 1.9 K. We want to have a gradient of 100 Tesla meter. We want to have an integrated field of 440 Tesla. So these kind of things, you give technical spec, you give functional spec. And the same for the other, these are just magnetic, but the same for the geometric, mechanical, quench specification. Now, why you should go for a PCP? You should go for a PCP if in the market there are not already available solution for what you are looking for. Also, considering that it's R&D, and R&D is not success oriented 100%, you know that R&D can fail. There is a lot of risk for company. So, if you are able to give only a fraction of the risk to the company, because you are just evaluating, for example, the function, the first phase, the conceptual design, company will be much willing to participate to a difficult development. And in this way, you can even enlarge the market basis, because you can have a small company that will not. I make the example of the magnet. each one of these magnets to be produced as a value of 1, 2 million. Small companies, and some of the companies that they participated, and well, actually all the companies that participated to our tender were small companies. The big player on the magnet market in Europe did not participate, so because for them was not interested to participate for a contract of 1 million, 2 million. Why? Why should do this? Whether it's ITER or LAC, big dipole of 10 meters, why they should be competing for peanuts. But small companies, they are attracted because also they can develop a technology that they do not have. And so, in this sense, PCP can really help enlarge the market basis. So what is the takeout of the takeaway from this PCP? That the tendering in phases is very appreciated by suppliers and small companies especially. As I was saying, SME were attracted, and were attracted indeed because, as I said, there were no large company that were participating to this tender. Has been able to trigger innovation from already of course in the conceptual design. The open market consultation, it's an important part of all the process. You have to pay good attention in this. Having a maximum budget for each phase reduce the financial competition, but this you can set at the beginning. You can set a threshold of financial competition at a certain level at the beginning. So this may be let's say a pitfall or maybe a disadvantage because you do not have a lot of financial competition between companies, but it has reason. I will explain later on. There is no technical negotiation permitted. This is in the sense that when you make the tender, the company reply, you cannot sit with company A and say, well, your tender is good in this and that, you have to change. Because you have to, one of the principles of European Union is equality of treatment. So you do not, this is not a negotiated procedure. In the procurement knows what is it. And it's not a negotiated procedure, so you have to follow when they give you an offer, you have to evaluate what they have offered, and you cannot go back and forth unless you don't go back for all the other tenders. This, in my opinion, it's a little bit of a drawback. Should be suggested to the Commission to find a way, because could improve the process. IPR is a critical aspect of PCP. Contractors have their own internal rules, and also laboratories. Different laboratories have different policy of IPR. And then you have to define the 50% of R&D services. This is a difficult threshold to reach. In our case, we considered that in this 50% of R&D service could be included also the tooling, because when you design or propose a specific manufacturing tool, a specific manufacturing process, this manufacturing process are depending on the tooling, and the tooling have to be designed specifically. So the design of the tool is a part of the development, part of the innovation that you are producing. So this was accepted by the Commission. So the equipment, the tooling to develop magnets can be part of the R&D services. So this, you change magnets and you put flat mirrors will be the same for you. PCP has the other advantage that increased the team up together between research center. In our project, we are teaming up with COA, CMAT, and CBJ, relatively small consortium but this has been quite helpful in working all together and in getting even synergy. PCP instruments can engage small company in technical difficult projects. They will not enter because on a harsh competition, but on a phased approach, and with the provision that that the process of development is steered by the consortium, the buyers that have maybe some know-how that they do not have and that can be transferred, they will engage much more. Because also the financial risk is reduced. Because there is low market impact, that's the point of the big company I was mentioning before, why we should compete for a work of few million, but small company they won't, because this will give them the possibility to acquire a specific know-how and then to be even much more competitive in respect except to the big player. This is not what I wrote myself, but this was written by the External Advisory Board Committee. They said that PCP, within the right project context and time frame, are a win-win-win solution for buyers because of time, cost, stage development, growing of supplier market, for the suppliers because of the shared risk, knowledge transfer, and tools that have been developed for the specific first of a kind will stay with the company, so the company can use these tools for other business. It's for society because there are new opportunities in market. So this is the so you have sharing of cost, you have a critical mass, you have mitigation of risk, of over and under specification, because you engage industry at the early stage, and so the industry will know and will give you feedback about the kind of specification that you are producing. Just a couple of slides about the eligibility. You have to fix in your tender evaluation points for awarding. But these points of awards can be changed for different phases, phase 1, 2, and 3. And for example, in phase 3, we changed the award points, increasing points to the technical part, because of course you have the technical parts, you have the financial parts, and you have also other things to evaluate. Why? Because the financial part has really, there is not much of competition about it. You have a budget fixed, and you say, well, if you go over this budget, you will be disqualified. So all the companies set themselves around that cap. That's the reality. So we gave the financial part of the offer in a way to keep track of all the phase of all the project that of all the price that they presented in the different phases. You have to be, of course, if you have a lower price, you will get more points as a company, but all the company will alienate close to the limit. As I was saying, price is less relevant element for the award. What you should be doing, you should try to spend all the available budget that the Commission gives you. If some money is left, it goes back to the Commission. It will be very, very difficult to reallocate in some other part of the project. Tell you because we had this problem and we had some unspent money from the phases 1 or 2 that company were bidding lower to the limits. So this money that was left, I thought we could have spent in, let's say, more traveling of the team going to follow up the company. No, you cannot do this. So this money has to go practically back to the commission. So you try to spend all the available budget. In the budget, the eligible cost of coordination networking activities cannot exceed 30% of the total estimated eligible cost set up in the budget at the time of the grant agreement. So this is one thing that means that you cannot increase over 30% this, reshuffling money in your line of budget, because if you are going above 30%, the commission will reimburse 30%. That's all. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. So as I was saying, I think that PCP is an instrument that can foster innovation also in the accelerator technology sector and also in your sector. What we did actually, it's a different name, it's a different scheme, but what we did when we developed the Large Hadron Collider 20 years ago, 30 years ago, was exactly the same. We were placing contract to different company, same contract, and we were putting in competition this company, competition on price, but also of course on quality, on result, and at the end, this company that were getting out of this process have been awarded the big chunk of the contract of the 1,000-ton magnets for the Large Hadron Collider, and has been a way of reducing risk for the laboratory, of course, placing all the contract to one company. Has been a way to improve the quality because there was a very healthy competition between different industries. And this scheme of PCP is not much different, apart of course that now it's dressed with the public procurement rules. Okay, I think I've finished. Yeah.